Michigan Out of Doors Online is brought to you in part by Tri-County Logging. Experienced in sustainable forestry practices, Tri-County Logging can help you manage your property by keeping your woods healthy and generate income. Serving southern and mid-Michigan for nearly 50 years, TriCountyLogging.com.
Hi everyone, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. I'm Jenny Silik and we've got a brand new show in store for you with lots of great things to share. We're going to check in with walleye guru Lance Valentine to get some tips from him on what we can have in our gear box to tackle those springtime walleyes. We'll have a venison stroganoff recipe for you and a couple of other great things to share.
Well, that's right, Jenny. We do have a few more things on this week's show. I'm going to take you to the northern part of the Lower Peninsula on Otsego Lake, just outside of Gaylord, and show you what it looks like to chase some sturgeon through the ice. You won't want to miss that. And if you happen to catch the show last week, we sat down with the DNR, and really the whole entire episode was all about deer management and what's going on with our deer herd. Well, we've got a few more minutes of that on this week's show, but it's actually questions from you, the viewer, so you won't want to miss that. Lots of brand new stuff on this week's show. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan out of doors.
What a beautiful day in the woods.
Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Country Smokehouse, a sportsman's meat processor and Michigan destination since 1988. Offers a variety of homemade smoked meats and Michigan-made products in-store and online. The Country Smokehouse features an outdoor barbecue and bar. Details at countrysmokehouse.com. By RBM Jigs, a Michigan-based company serving ice fishing anglers around the state and throughout the country. Specializing in ice fishing gear, RBM Jigs manufactures tungsten jigs, soft plastics, and much more. Online at lakeeffectlures.com. By AnglerQuest Pontoons. AnglerQuest is a Michigan-based company building boats designed for comfort and fishing functionality. For more information, anglerquestpontoons.com. By Polarcraft Boats, offering riveted and welded boats for the outdoor enthusiast. Whether you're targeting fish or waterfowl, Polarcraft Boats have several models to choose from that keep you high and dry. For more information, polarcraft.com.
How'd you get sucked into this today?
Right, it called me up
Yeah?
a couple days ago and asked if I wanted to come up. So,
Nice. Where's home for you?
what's that?
Where's home for you?
Auburn.
Okay.
Yep. So,
Nice.
got the day off of work, so conditions aren't the best, but thought we'd come up and give it a shot anyways.
Yep.
Well, besides Riley and Scott, we also had Riley's wife Ashton along as well. As we got our shacks all set and the bigger holes spud out for sturgeon, I learned how Riley ever got interested in this kind of fishing.
Okay, tell me how you got into this sturgeon fishing. Where are we at today?
We're on Otsego Lake in Gaylord, Michigan. I don't even know, for quite a while I've been wanting to fish this lake. Back in 2020, I got married, so we decided to have a bachelor party up to Bay Mills Casino. On the way up, I told my brother-in-law there was absolutely had to stop here and try for sturgeon. And we just got lucky. He hooked up onto one, lost it pretty quickly, but ever since then I was hooked on getting a sturgeon out of Otsego Lake. Never caught a sturgeon before, never even seen a sturgeon before, but that's what I wanted to do, and by golly, for the next 2 years, I put my time and work into it. The following, what was that, that following February, my buddy and I came back up here, Colin Colson. We sat up, we fished this from 6 o'clock in the morning all the way till it was just before dark. We finally hooked up onto a sturgeon. We had a couple come through the hole. There was a nice 3-foot one. He hooked up into that one, but it spit the hook. I mean, he just got so excited. I think he just ripped it right out of its mouth. We were a little bummed out. It wasn't 5 minutes after that one swam through. He had another nice one swim through. He hooked up onto that. 45-minute battle later, we were able to get him through the hole. We actually had to spud the hole bigger halfway through the battle.
Jeez.
It just wouldn't fit. So I ran all the way back to the car, ran all the way back here, spud that hole. It was a nightmare, but we got him on the ice. It was a keeper, 51 inches, 22 pounds. So just seeing them is just, it's just amazing what kind of fish they are.
Now, how do you pick a spot here? This is a big lake.
Yeah, you get lucky, I guess. They're bottom feeder. There's not too much research out there, but what I've been kind of finding, they like a little bit shallower, sandier, flatter bottoms. So we kind of came up from drop-offs, kind of where they might chill out, kind of relax. I'm not really sure. I'm no expert. But they tend to be in the shallows, and they just kind of come through. It's almost like they got predetermined trails they go down. But we came here in 7 foot of water. We were bouncing all over, the buddy and I, and this is where we saw them all, and this is kind of where we've been staying. And every time we've come out, I mean, knock on everything, we've got one on the ice.
And what do you have on the hook?
So we're running just a circle hook. It's a 2-aught heavy wire. I've been trying, it's a little different than what we used to do, but I cut the head off of them, and I got this tail, and I'll try to make it lay on bottom. I mean, just so the tail kind of sticks up, if that makes any sort of sense. We got a bigger swivel. No sense to run a sinker in the shallow water. That swivel will kind of lay on bottom, kind of keep that line from coiling up around that bait.
Well, with some time to kill, we opted to put out a few tip-ups for some nearby walleye or perch, whatever might be biting.
The drop-off, just maybe another 100 yards that way. They'll come up out of the drop-off, come in the flats to feed. There's some bigger perch out here too. So hopefully luck's on our side. Dorsal fin. Down he goes.
All right. Well, we weren't having much luck in the shacks today, but after watching some of the videos on Riley's phone, well, I got to see what this actually looks like with a big fish on the line.
Just get this video. Yeah, usually right around after 3 p.m. That's what we're getting into. They seem to be a little bit more active right before sundown comes through. They'll come up, really get going.
And what is it that you like about this kind of, just the challenge of the kind of like chasing a big buck?
It is. It's you gotta really outsmart them. There's not much finessing to go with them. You just gotta set up and kind of get right on them. But they're just such a goofy fish. It's just something you rarely even see, let alone hear a lot of people catching them.
I have to say, after seeing a big fish like this in shallow water, I can see where the attraction comes from. Sturgeon are an awesome fish for sure, and I can say I have never seen one come through the ice. Special thanks to Riley for letting me tag along, and so if you're on Otsego Lake, don't be surprised if you see a red shack, some happy anglers, and some monster fish here in Michigan's Out of Doors. Well, if you happened to catch the show last week, we sat down for the entire episode with Chad Stewart from the DNR talking all things deer hunting related. Well, on this week's show, we're going to have a few more minutes of that, but it's all questions from you, the viewer. Well, we're here once again with Chad Stewart, big game specialist here for the DNR, and we've got some questions from you, the viewers, straight from our Facebook page. We posted something a couple days ago, and we got hundreds and hundreds, but we've got a handful here, so we're just going to do some rapid fire, and you can kind of go wherever you want to, Chad. But Ray Heinrich Jr. is asking, are they considering Earn a Buck program? I think it's a good idea. All deer experts say that we have way too many deer, I'm assuming, or too many does.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Ray. I would say that it's certainly in our toolbox of things that we can, or trying to evaluate. I would say that we're not really focused on what I would call an earn a buck, which that sort of implies that before shooting a buck, you have to shoot a doe.
Right.
I think what we're more focused on, if we go down that direction, which again we're still evaluating, would be an earn a second buck, which is very similar to what Virginia has. And basically that means if you go out on your first day hunting and you see this really great deer that you're happy to shoot come through, a buck that comes through, you can do that without having, you know, a previous requirement to shoot an antlerless deer. But before moving on to the opportunity to shoot a second buck, then there would be a certain a doe. One of the things we have to figure out is which counties would this be most appropriate in, how would it exist with our current license structure, because I don't think this would be a statewide type level thing. This would be a very sort of targeted approach, and you know, understanding the framework and the operational details around a regulation change like that is sort of the devil in the details type thing.
Okay, Rick Boker wants to know, does the DNR feel that the decline in deer hunters is a result of banning hunting over bait?
No, we don't believe that's the case, because we've been seeing declining hunter numbers, you know, for 20 years. You know, long before we reduced or got rid of the baiting requirement. So we have started to look at, you know, if there are changes in the trends that are declining, and we don't see that we don't see like an accelerated decline in hunters since the baiting ban took place. So when you look at the age structure of our hunters, to me it's pretty clear why we're losing hunters, and that's simply because we have a lot more hunters in their 60s and 70s than we have in their teens and 20s. So, you know, as hunters are aging out of deer hunting, we don't have the numbers backfilling to come in. So it's pretty cut and dry with that, and I would say it's not related to our baiting position at all.
Okay. Steve Jackson says, I'd like to see the after-action report on CWD since baiting was banned, since most, if not all hunters, believe it was a simple cash grab. Please prove us wrong with the new totals, especially since this law disproportionately affects non-land-owning hunters. It's a lot there.
Yeah, it is. Gosh, I wish CWD was a cash grab. I mean, certainly we've gotten funding to help combat CWD, but you know, the expenses that the agency has incurred to do surveillance monitoring is pretty substantial. So all of that money is going into surveillance and monitoring for the disease because we feel it's important. I mean, they have you know, national and international conferences devoted to this specific topic. So you know, the other thing that you want to think about with chronic wasting disease is that it is glacially slow in how it moves. So, you know,
kind of like the department.
You're putting me in a tough spot here, Jimmy. Wow. Yeah. No. I lost me.
No, that's all good.
No. I was going to say that, you know, to evaluate a regulation, you know, within 4 or 5 years for something like chronic wasting disease isn't probably the right time frame for that. And I know that's maybe difficult for some folks to understand, but it does take a long time. But we view chronic wasting disease as a long-term threat to deer hunting, deer management. You know, a lot of the folks that either are hunting in a CWD area or certainly not in a known CWD area aren't going to see the impacts of that maybe in their life. But you know, we're looking at this at really a long-term scale.
I think we've covered this one before, but it's still worth. If there's a baiting ban, why does every gas station and convenience store still sell bait?
Because the department doesn't have authority to, you know, prohibit commerce. essentially. Yeah. So that would take a legislative action to prevent that sale. I don't know if I want to comment where that would would go. So yeah.
Okay, this one is a little bit more lighthearted. Michigan Deer Hunter Quiz. This is for you. What will come first? Detroit Lions Super Bowl victory, statewide APRs, or wolf hunting?
That's a good one. I like where the Lions are going. You know, they look like they're looking like a better team, and they got a lot of youth and a lot of talent. It's hard to bet against the Lions at this point.
Oh, that's awesome. This one's not on here, but we'll kind of finish up with this. With the new reporting system, the online, I know some other states do this too. Is there any movement about having a phone number, like an automated type system to go along with the online reporting, that if someone wanted to just call in on a phone line, and is that in the works?
So that was, we have that available, and we actually incorporated that partway through the year.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we did. We didn't publicize it a whole lot because, you know, the preferred way to go about doing it was through the online or the web app. I did sort of report they give you test licenses to try things out with when you're in the agency. It took me about 9 to 10 minutes to report my harvest over the phone, so it very much lengthens the reporting time. When the average reporting time through the web-based service is under 5 minutes. So
and that was an automated system. You're not talking to an actual person.
It's an automated system. It's touch tone, so every time you are keying in your report, you have to confirm that yes, in fact, that is the right key. So it does take a long time. We do have that available. Again, we're evaluating, you know, how to move forward with that in the future, but we do have that option available. We did incorporate it a little bit this year. We just didn't publicize it as much because we are trying to push everybody through the web-based component. So.
Well, I know it's a tough job that you guys have, because no matter what you do, you're going to have half the states happy and half the states angry. So appreciate you sitting down with us.
Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate it.
This time of year, especially here in the southern part of the state, as the ice recedes, our thoughts turn toward those springtime walleyes. We figured what better person to get some tips from than Lance Valentine from Teachin' Fishin'.
You know, when we're jig fishing for walleye, we can use live bait, but I think that most days plastics are going to catch you more fish than live bait will. Because when you buy live bait, you're only buying one type of bait. So you buy 3.5-inch emerald shiners, that's great if the walleyes are feeding on 3.5-inch emerald shiners, or if they're eating gobies, or they're eating eels, or eating 7-inch shad. An emerald shiner, 3 inches long, doesn't look right, smell right, taste right, feel right. So with plastics, we can do a couple things. We can imitate different styles of bait fish, and each piece of plastic that we have has 2 factors I think are really important you understand. Number 1 is what we call the fall rate, and number 2 is what we call the fall angle. Let me show you what I mean. So if I start with a long, skinny piece of plastic, this is a plastic worm that everybody that's ever fished Detroit River or fished for walleyes understands what this worm is, right? And we can fish it from 3 inches up to about 4.5, 5 inches, depending on the kind of bait fish that we're trying to imitate. But this is a very, very straight, very, very thin, very, very hydrodynamic body of plastic. So what happens when I put this on a jig, it falls very straight and falls very fast. There's not a lot of resistance there to the water. So it falls very quickly and it falls straight down. So we've got a fast fall rate and a straight fall angle, okay? Some days that's good. Some days aggressive fish love that. It's a great way to catch fish. You should never ever go on a body of water without having some worms, because they do catch fish. But as we start to change the body shape, so let's go to what we call a jerk minnow. A little bit thicker body, a little bit thinner tail, a forked tail, but we've got more mass here in the body. I put this on the same exact jig, same jigging motion. It's going to fall a little bit slower than the worm is, and it's actually going to start to fall back downstream just a touch. So I've adjusted the fall rate, and I've adjusted the fall angle just by making my body a little bit bulkier. Okay, so that's the second body shape I fish a lot. We call that a jerk minnow. The next one is a finesse minnow, and that's a little bit thicker body, a little bit thicker top to bottom, a little bit thicker back. It's got more mass in the tail, so again, it falls a little bit slower still and has a tendency to kind of fall back to the fish. So this falls back, whereas the worm's going straight up and down, this one's going to fall back to the fish in their face a little bit. So again, I've adjusted the fall rate and I've adjusted the fall angle. That's the next shape we want to fish. Fourth shape that I fish a lot is called a disc worm. This is a 4-inch worm, has a twister tail, it's a thicker worm, has a thicker head on it, and it has ribs or disc. What that does is all of this traps water. This twister tail spins, adds resistance. Water is trapped by all these discs. So what happens is this falls very slow and falls back towards the fish. So I've again adjusted to, I got a much slower fall rate, and my fall angle is actually back towards the fish, so the fish are actually getting it. We're going to talk about some of these in detail here in just a second. And then the last shape that I fished is just a boot tail body, but again, this is a very, very big, this is a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker. You can see how thick it is on the top, how thick it is on the side, and it's got this big old boot tail. This is the slowest falling plastic that I use. So it falls very, very slow, and because it falls slow, the current catches it and actually forces it down current. So with each one of these body shapes, I've adjusted not only how it looks and what type of bait fish it imitates, but also how fast the fall rate is and how the fall angle actually falls either straight up and down or back to the fish. Now I will tell you this, big fish, I'm a pretty detailed record keeper, and I will tell you this, over the last 20 years, about 75% of my fish over 30 inches have come on either this disc worm or this boot tail. Slow falling, a slow fall rate, and a body that falls back to the fish is much better for big fish than a body that falls very, very fast and falls straight down. Worms are great for aggressive fish that are on sand bottoms, that are just moving. You want to fish fairly quickly and get the active fish. If you want to catch more big fish, you want to slow down a little bit and let the jig fall a little bit slower. If you're fishing very, very shallow water where you want the jig to stay up above the bottom longer, or if you're fishing in rocks where there's a lot of snags, once the jig hits the bottom, it's going to get snagged. Pick a body like this disc worm or this boot tail that stays up longer, falls slower, lets the fish see it, and keeps you out of the snags. It's more important every day to get the fall right and fall angle correct before you get the color. Having the right fall angle and right fall rate in the wrong color is going to catch you a lot more fish than having the right color in the wrong fall rate, wrong fall angle. Pay attention to shape first, then worry about color.
Stay tuned to upcoming episodes where Lance talks about how to use different jigs, crankbaits, line, and rod reel combos to have more fun on the water and put more fish in the box this spring, right here in Michigan's Out of Doors.
Well, we're here once again at Wood Shop Social, Mount Pleasant, Michigan, with Jim Wood, and we've got a lot of ingredients here. Jim, what are we cooking today?
Not that many ingredients, but anyway, we're gonna do a venison stroganoff.
Okay, so kind of a classic.
Yeah, so it's a classic, and people tend to really, when they do a classic, like, oh, you gotta do it like this. Well, this is my version of it.
Okay.
Just taken from years of cooking and figuring out what ingredients go best with each other. This is my best version of this.
And this is a venison stroganoff, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so what does a stroganoff mean? That just means, I mean, there's some sort of noodle involved?
Yeah, it's normally an egg noodle with sour cream, normally onions, mushrooms, stock.
Okay. Well, get us started here. What are we going to...
All right.
What do we do? It looks like our venison's already browned here.
It's already cooked and braised, actually.
Oh, cooked and braised.
And that's kind of where this is going to be a little different than the way everybody else does this.
Okay.
But not to get ahead of ourselves, onions first.
Onions first. Gotcha. And what are our other ingredients here that we're going to stick in the pan?
So we're going to saute our onions, then we're going to add fresh garlic, and then we're going to deglaze with some brandy.
And then you can use any cut of venison for the meat, or are you looking for something tender? Or
yeah, you really can, but what we did was we used stew meat. So this is going to be taken from the hind quarter, the front quarter.
Gotcha.
And like I said, we braised it for a couple hours to make it, I mean, you can see this is cold, but it's just tender, it falls apart.
And when you braise something, walk me through that process.
So the way we did this one was we seared the meat off first.
In a hot skillet kind of a thing?
Yep.
Okay.
And then we just cook it like 350 degrees after it's been seared off with some venison stock or beef stock, whatever you have. So now we're going to add a little bit of stone ground mustard to this. A little bit of sour cream.
So that's pretty thick sauce then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Add our meat. Got a little black pepper. Just a touch of salt.
Now, is this a dish that you make a lot, or?
I've made this a few times, yeah.
Okay.
I grew up eating beef stroganoff, so this was always something that I
A staple
enjoyed.
at the Wood home.
It was.
Okay, and Jim, our official name for this recipe is?
This is going to be braised venison stroganoff.
Perfect.
Thanks so much for joining us this week for Michigan Out of Doors. Make sure you stay tuned in upcoming weeks. We've got lots of great things to share with you, including our big buck nights east and west. We'll get out for a couple of rabbit hunts before the season is over, and then we'll turn our focus to springtime fishing. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the show, you can always check us out online.
Well, that's right, Jenny. Online is a good way to kind of keep tabs on us. You can do that through our website, our different social media platforms, as well as YouTube. Lots of places you can be checking us out. Make sure you are joining us over the next several weeks. Lots of brand new stuff coming. Big buck nights are right around the corner. Still some good ice fishing to be had in parts of the state. Get out and enjoy it. And if we don't see you in the woods or on the water, hopefully we'll see you right back here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by.
Do you dream of somewhere bigger than your backyard? You can get there with Greenstone. Whether you want to hunt, fish, hike, or just watch the sunset, we're ready to help you own your place in the great outdoors. To learn more, visit greenstonefcs.com.
By Alta Equipment Company, providing sales, rentals, service, and parts because uptime matters. From earth moving to landscaping and light construction, Alta offers over 50 brands across 7 Michigan locations to serve you. More information online or 844-GO-2-ALTA. By Showspan, producing consumer shows including Outdoorama at Novi's Suburban Collection Showplace. The show features tackle, trips, boats, outfitters, the trout pond, and of course, Big Buck Night. That's Outdoorama in Novi.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man. Changing seasons paint the scene like rainbow trout in a hidden stream. The white-tailed deer in the tall pine trees. I am a Michigan man. I am a Michigan man. Ask where I'm from and I'll show you my